Shom is a very intriguing character. At the first glance, they are just a normal shopkeeper that sells a couple of items. As the game progresses, the shop even becomes a bit useless, because we would have far better items by that point, just like they say. As you find stronger treasure, I'm sure you'll have little reason to return here. But if you have some time, I will offer you a biscuit and a hint. But things changes when we start to talk about the shadow crystals. In reality, Sham knows more than they let on. Their knowledge is second to Ralsei, they might even know more than him. Sham knows stuff like who are and how to defeat the secret bosses, future events, and even the game mechanics. They are also important for later because they will make something with the shadow crystals we collected that will help us for later, maybe even unlock the true ending of the game. And we also see Sham on Azrael computer. So who exactly is Sham and what is their purpose? Because Sham is such an ambiguous character, along the years people had come with a lot of weird theories, like Shams know so much because they are a shard of Gaster, their face seems to look like Gaster's, their nose looks like a shadow crystal, they have the Deltarune teeth but upside down, their eyes looks like Flowey in Tissin, they might be evil and become a boss using the crystals to empower themselves at the end, and the list just goes on. I personally don't really believe any of that to be the case. Some people are tired to hear that Gaster is the answer for every mystery in the game, and I personally agree in a way. I mean, people even see Gaster's face in the Titan, so yeah, that's a bit much. I think there is another connection with Sham that very few seems to make, and that's how Sham seems to be this game's Sans. A chill friendly guy on the outside, but on the inside a nihilistic person who lost all of their hopes because of their knowledge and understanding of this world. To elaborate on this further, let's go through some of Sham's dialogue and past. Sham originated from the Card Kingdom and they were the court magician for the four kings working alongside Jevil, the court jester. Long ago the Dark Nurse lived in harmony with the Light Nurse. They were like gods to us, our protector, our creators, those who gave us purpose. Then one day we were all locked away in this prison, and the Light Nurse never returned. Embittered, the king took up arms and aimed to take revenge upon the Light Nurse that left us behind. Of course, even among his troops, some still distantly hope the Light Nurse will return. This is the oldest event Sham talks about, and they seem to talk about another era where Light Nurse and Dark Nurse lived together and it wasn't something hidden. It looks like the Light Nurse created the Dark Nurse, which makes sense because they are regular objects that were made by the ones from the light world. But the line "we were all locked away in this prison," like, what is this prison? I was thinking for a while. It maybe refers to what Jevil was talking about, how this entire world is a prison, but I think it refers to something much deeper. What if the light world and dark world were at some point combined, just a single world? I've made this theory in the past and I speculate that this could be the Knight's plan to bring back that era. It will explain how characters from different worlds know each other. Sham, Lancer, King and many others know Queen from a long time ago. I was even surprised to see Queen again, same as ever. Well, aren't we all? King and Queen are probably a couple, so how is this possible when they live in different worlds? We know that they will turn into statues if they go to another dark world. After the world was separated into smaller dark worlds, these worlds could have become like a prison for them. If they go into the light world, they turn into a regular object. If they go to another world, they will turn into a statue. They are trapped here in this dark world, and Sham was likely old enough to have lived in both eras. Historically, this land was ruled by the four kings, but recently a strange knight appeared, and 3 of the kings were locked away. The remaining king put him and his strange son into power. This land hasn't seen this much chaos since... Well, you don't need to know about that. Why? What happened then? Yet again, Sham shows that they know a lot more, but they don't want to talk about it. The only event that Sham could refer to that I can think about it is the one that involves Jevil, but we know that the Jevil incident happened at the same time when King had become the only king and the knight appeared. So this event is probably the one where the Light Nurse abandoned them and the world changed, or an event that we know nothing about. Since we are here, let's also talk about Jevil. Eh? What are you talking about? A prisoner with an odd manner? No, you couldn't possibly be talking about him, I see. After all the trouble I went to lock him up, you want to release him? Now that you mention, it could be troublesome if he was left alone. Yes, perhaps it's better if you heroes deal with him now. After all, it's not as if whatever happens will matter in the end. Perhaps a little chaos might be fun. This is the first hint on Sham's nihilistic view. No matter what you do, it doesn't matter to them, so they become uncaring on what happens either way. And the reason for this view is explained when Sham talks about Jevil after you defeated him. He was a funny little man, once the court jester, I the court magician. A friend? Could I consider him a friend? Perhaps, perhaps not. But he was the only one who could match me in the games we used to play. One day he met a strange someone, and since then he began to change. He started saying bizarre things that didn't completely make sense, but didn't completely not make sense either. Soon he began to see the world as a game and everyone as its participants. As the court mage and his only companion, I was forced to lock him away. Or rather, lock us all away in his own words. Since that time, the strange words he said have stuck inside my cotton, and my view of this world has become darker yet darker. Reflecting on these old memories, I think perhaps I miss playing games with him, and I wonder if I haven't been asked to lock him up, would I have found a little more purpose in my life? King also comments on this event. It was he, the clown, that told me the night's brilliance, about the fountain's glory and how I will rise to power. Funny little man, how his jokes and dances made us chuckle. A shame he had to be tricked away by his closest companion. The magician, Sham, whose smile has gone empty since that day. So their friend Jevil has met someone that probably gave him the shadow crystal, and he has become insane since then. We still don't know who this person is. Sham talks about both this person and the knight as they were two different guys, but Jevil talks about how great the knight is and how everyone should follow them. So it's not clear if the knight is the same person as this one. I guess the strange person could have told Jevil about everything, so they still could be someone else. Sham saw the mad state Jevil was in, but despite that, his words hold some truth, a dark truth about this world. Eventually Sham had to lock Jevil away because he was too dangerous. We know Sham is strong because before the crystal they were on the same level with Jevil, but we don't know if they were stronger or as stronger as Jevil after he got the crystal. It is said that Sham tricked him, meaning Sham had to come up with a plan because they couldn't defeat him otherwise, and that seems to be the case. But in time Sham thinked more and more about what Jevil said. His words stuck on to Sham, and this is the point where they started to realize the dark reality they live in and the inevitable fate that awaits them. Their smile had disappeared since that day and they lost their purpose. Now they are longing for the old times when they used to play with Jevil and had fun. Sham is very aware of what is about to happen, and they know no matter what they do, the outcome will be the same, darker yet darker. They accepted their fate and now they are numb to everything around them. They await the end of the world, just like they say. Haha, so you are the heroes who are going to seal our fountain. Ha, good luck. It makes no difference to me. Neither light nor dark holds a future for a darkener in my condition. You defeated him? You really defeated him? I see. Perhaps you three may truly be heroes after all, but Jevil was a taste of what you'll face from now on. One day soon, you too will begin to realize the futility of your action. At that time, feel free to come back here. I'll make you tea and we can toast to the end of the world. Sham probably tried to do something, but they soon realized that nothing had changed despite their tries. They know so much about the crystals because they probably tried to gather them or to get information about them, because they might be the key for making their fate change and save the world. At least this is how I interpret this quote. If you can defeat more strong adversaries, you may find more shadow crystals. Try your best. It may be tough, but I'm sure it will be worth it. The crystals are definitely a very important tool that will change the lives of these characters. But for Sham, nothing came out of that. Nowadays, Sham just collects random stuff to pass time, to have some purpose until the final day comes. Over the years, I've collected odds and ends. Of course, I've no attachment to any of it. It's just a hobby of mine. Around here, you learn to find a way to pass time or go mad like everyone else. Also, who asked Sham to lock Jevil away? They really liked him and Sham said someone told them to do that. King liked Jevil and thinks it was a shame he had to be locked. So maybe this was before King was the only king and the order was from the other three kings. But all of this doesn't explain Sham's vast knowledge. Jevil talked about the knight, but that doesn't explain how Sham knew about Spamton or Gerson. It doesn't look like Jevil told Sham about all of this stuff. I could only find two explanations for for these questions and neither of them are satisfying. The first one is that after Sham learns about this world from Jevil, they were curious if it was true, so they started to seek information and they learn about the prophecy and read it. And just like Ralsei, they realize that the prophecy cannot be changed and the world is doomed to end. It will explain how Sham knows all the future events, just like Ralsei, but it seems that the shadow crystals are outside the prophecy. Ralsei doesn't know about the crystals and it doesn't really seem he knows about the secret bosses. There is no vision or mention about them in chapter 4 prophecies, so I believe they are not in the prophecy. I mean, they wouldn't be considered secret bosses if everyone knew about them. When we fought the knight, Ralsei was surprised for a moment that we almost won because the prophecy said otherwise. Sham had more or less the same reaction when we told them we won. They didn't expect that, so it could be an explanation. They know the prophecy. The second option is a popular theory that recently appeared made by Lorefax TV. He believes that Sham might have been a part of a former fan gang prior to ours, one that involves Des, Azriel and Sham. Many also believe that Sham knows so much because they were also a prince or royalty. They will be like Ralsei, someone that have read the prophecy and they are both mages in a way. If there was a gang similar to ours in the past, it could explain how Sham knows so much about everything, because they already have been through some adventure of their own, and after their fails and loss of Des, they realized there is no hope and they were destined to fail no matter what. It will also explain how Sham knows about the knight and how to defeat them. That's assuming Des is the knight. Sham would know about her if she was in the gang with them. It could also explain why Sham is so damaged. They never talk about their scars or their missing eye. Although Sham's toy has an eye on the staff, so probably that's the eye. Sham only hints about their bad state. Lorefax TV main idea for this part that involves Sham started from one of Susie's quotes in chapter 4. When you inspect Azriel's computer, Susie says this: "Hey!" And in the corner, that's the cat thing from the castle town. You know, the shop thing, the cat, the stitches thing, whatever. It seems that Sham has some connection with Azriel. Was Sham Azriel's toy? We don't know in what form does Susie see Sham there. The plush form from the light world or the darkener form. If it's the latter, it would mean that Azriel was in fact in a dark world in the past and he knows Sham. Azriel seems to work on a game like Undertale on his computer, but we don't know if that's important or just a gag. If on the screen is the plush, that would mean that Sham was Azriel's toy. Chris doesn't seem to react to this and Sham never mentions anything, although they don't say that much. But the toy seems to belong to the school because Sham can exist in the card kingdom, while Ramb, a guy who was taken by Chris and Azriel from the library and lived for a few years in Chris's house, can't, because they don't belong there, so Sham would have turned into stone as well if that was the case. I haven't watched Lorefax TV entire video to have my own view. From what I can tell, this doesn't seem to be the case with Sham. They say they became like this after they saw Jevil madness, and if we connect all the dots from what Shams told us so far, it seems that the state they're in was a fairly recent event. The night arrives, Jevil becomes crazy, Shams locks him away, Shams' vision becomes darker yet darker. All of this happened in this little period, while Azriel was still in college and Des has been missing for years at this point. Noel was just a little kid when this happened, so the timeline doesn't match. Sham nihilism is a product of recent events, not from an old one. But the connection with Azriel could be something related to the first event that Sham talks about, the time they were abandoned by the Lightners. This theory makes a lot of assumptions from other mysteries in order to work. The Dark Worlds should have existed for quite a while, or at least the plot of opening them, same as the Knight. How Chris would fit in all of this? It also requires the Knight to be Des to explain how Sham knows them. Sham would need to be a special Darkner to go to other dark fountains like Ralsei, and probably even more stuff if we really look into it. So let's get to the next point. Sham seems to know the game mechanics just like Sans knew in Undertale. Another similarity between them. Here you can make the Gaster case if you want, because Sans seems to know so much from Gaster, as we know one of his weapons is a Gaster blaster. So if you really want to make connection, I think this is is the only real one, because of the game mechanics. Sans was aware of resets, saving and all of that stuff. It was the reason why he was in this state. Everyone with this power could just play with their lives, killing everybody, resetting and doing it all over again. Even if they would find happiness, it could be all taken away. So what's the point? To live a life that you have no control over it. Just like Sham, they know too much about this world and now they can no longer enjoy it. If you miss a shadow crystal, Sham would say this. What is that? It appears to have a shadow crystal. Unfortunately, I believe that you are missing one from your previous adventures. But are you sure? Are you sure you didn't defeat the clown? Perhaps you just haven't remembered that you had yet. That's right, as long as you defeated the enemy in the past, then perhaps even now the crystal might turn up somewhere close. Perhaps. Characters knowing game mechanics isn't something new or even rare. Rules, Lancer and many others know that. They mention how they are boss encounters, they have their own music teams and they know about that, they even sing them. Hell, even this random enemy from the cyber world knows what's a combat and what the sparing mechanic is. But all of these are gameplay mechanics that exist after you press the start button. But before that, there is only one person that knows what's going on. The narrator, the ones that also appear again in chapter 3. Possibly even Ralsei, because they hint that you don't need to play the entire game at once and you should take a break and come back later, but it's a bit weird there. Sham knows about the save files and chapter selection and hints on how to use it. As long as you defeated the enemy in the past, the crystal might turn up somewhere close. Basically telling you that you can go back to a previous chapter, play it again, get the crystal and come back to your original save file and the crystal will appear at the left wing of the castle. Because the crystals carry over to all the other save files. You need to get them only once per game. They clearly know about the save files, or at the very least they know everything about the crystals and how they works, even how to find them. Again, they seems to know even more stuff than Ralsei. That or that asshole still hides a lot of stuff from us even after what they said. So after all of this, what do we know about Sham? Well, still nothing. They lived in an era where Darkners and Lightners lived together. A chaotic event happened, probably related to that one, then time passes and a strange someone corrupts Jevil and after that Sham had to lock him away, and sometime after we arrive. Also they are related to Azrael, but who knows how. There is not really that much space in this timeline to squeeze an explanation for all this knowledge, unless time in the Dark Worlds flows differently, which doesn't seem to be the case since it's always quite late after we finish an adventure. So it seems to be the same or very close. But I guess you could say otherwise since Sham talks about an event from a long time ago. So after learning so much about Sham, let's talk about the other thing that we know a lot about. My god, why did I make this video? So we are here now, in a new world, and right off the heels of defeating that clown. Incredible. Oh, what's that? It seems like he gave something to you. That's right, you must have not noticed it. That crystal, it's nearly invisible, but you've been holding it this entire time. Here, I'll take it off your hands and appraise it. Incredible, to think he had a shadow crystal. Shadow crystals, so called because you can only see their shadows. Call it a premonition, but I get the feeling you might find more of this, if you continue to defeat strong adversaries like him, that is. If you can gather more shadow crystals, bring them here. I'm sure I can stitch together something incredible for you. So Sham didn't knew Jevil had a crystal, but they knew about the other ones, and they knew the crystals were tied to extremely powerful enemies and how powerful the crystals are. When Sham talks about Spamton crystal, they seem to know where the crystal was, but they didn't know about Spamton. Although they say that salesman, but they probably say that because we've told them that. But Sham hints that they know who created the suit and how it was made. I believe that Sham doesn't know the future. Spamton found the crystal in the suit. They didn't knew Spamton will get it. Although they knew Gerson will have the next one, and they say the next opponent will be so strong to already ring your defeat, but Gerson's fight was different. The crystal was meant for Gerson, but they didn't use it in the end, and he even wanted to give Susie the crystal even when she lost, so I wouldn't consider that to be hard. Meaning Sham does know where the crystals are, who will hold it, and how strong that person will be once they will use it, but they know nothing after that. They don't know how they will use the crystal, and if we, the players, will get it. Before the fight with the knight, Sham talks about an important item that they possess that will be our only chance of defeating the knight: the Shadow Mantle. But they lost it. We don't know about the origins of the mantle or how Sham got it or even how they lost it. I feel your next opponent may be... in reality it may be impossible to win, unless you use the power of the Shadow Mantle. Here, it may look like an old scrap of cloth, but... I can't find it. Did someone take it? Well, now there goes your only chance of victory. We know that someone took it. Maybe it was the king because he wears something very similar. The mantle even flies away, moving on its own, just like we see here in the minigames. Even Toby hints on that connection, like saying "cool mantle bro." Or maybe it was stolen from the person from the minigames. Or maybe even Chris. It was in their house after all. The Shadow Mantle is connected to the crystal in some way. Both of them have shadows in their name, are related to secret content, and both of them have water-like properties. A sharp shadow moving like water in the hand. Shadows slips off like water, so maybe they are made from the same material, or the mantle was made from a shadow crystal. This could be an explanation on why Sham has it. It is related to the crystals or is necessary to get them, like the fight with the knight. So Sham probably got it in their tries to collect the crystals, but nothing came out of that, so the mantle remained unused and just an old scrap of cloth. Because the mantle was lost, Sham stops believing you can beat the knight without the mantle. They barely did even if you had the mantle. And they even talk like they were expecting something like this. The moment you fail to collect even a single crystal, Shams drops everything and they return to their nihilism state. But it's over now, isn't it? No mantle, no crystal. Don't have a long face now. We all knew nothing good came out of this. But it was fun to pretend it might for a little while. Thank you. This entire quest slowly gives Sham some hope. You really might be someone that can succeed where Sham failed. You have what is needed to beat the undefeatable enemies. You can change this world's fate. Kinda like they say after you defeated Jevil. Maybe you are the heroes after all. At this point, Sham was in an in-between state. They were happy that you did the unthinkable so far, but there was no way you could defeat the knight, especially without the mantle. There was no way you can defeat what was about to come. It was fun for them to think about that possibility for a while, and they thanks us for that. We inspired them and even made them feel hope again, even if it was just for a little while. But if you manage to get the mantle back and get the crystal from the knight, Sham starts to visibly change. I know what you're going to say. Now, there is no shame in it. You fought the knight, didn't you? Well, we all knew there is no winning there. What? You got the shadow crystal? I see, so you were able to recover the shadow mantle. It's strange, by all reasonable means, the strength of your next opponent should be enough to already ring the bell of your defeat. But for some reason, I can't help but think you may win. What is this feeling? Hope? Whatever it is, it's quite funny. This entire quest is not only for us, but for Sham as well. By getting more and more crystals, we restore Sham's hope, a feeling that they didn't had for a long time. Sham starts to recover their smile, and they even start to root for us. Before they were pessimistic about this goal, but now they really believe in our victory. They really think we are the ones. I really believe that this entire quest is not to make Sham a villain, or someone who will trick us once we get all the crystals, or to not trust in general. Sham's character arc is one of changing your fate despite the odds and restoring them to how they once were, to have a reason to hope again for a better outcome. This is what Deltarune is about, to restore everyone's hope for a bright future. For the final section, let's discuss why Shams cares so much about the crystals and what they will stitch together once we get all 5 of them. There is only one more crystal to collect, and it is possible that we will find about their role at the end of chapter 5. As we know, the crystals have the ability to make the user much more powerful. So with a whole 5 of them, you can really become a monster. So what is this item that Sham will make? We know that the crystals can show things for what they really are in the dark world, and in the light world they seems to show the future or something like that. I always speculate that whatever Sham will make will give us the power to make the enemies return to their light world form and easily defeat them. But while looking for information for this video, I found something that changes things. This small new information comes from people who data mine the game and the wiki. Before I get into any of this, please take everything with a grain of salt, because this is not official and could very easily be just something Toby left in the game as notes. He is very aware that people are ripping his game apart and search every little thing in the game files. In the past, Toby even left messages to those who are looking in the codes. And even in Deltarune, there's a person that seems to be trapped in the codes, so he's definitely aware of this. But still, there is a lot of information like Noelle drinking Suzy tea and absolutely loving it, or even equipping Noelle with different weapons even from these new chapters, and she has interaction with some of those, so I don't know what to say. It seems to be canon, but so far it's not confirmed, so take it however you want it, I suppose. Okay, let's get into it. So the thing I'm talking about is an item that we know from all the way back in chapter 2, which can be found in one of Malleus' recipes, the pure crystal. People theorize even before that this is what Sham will make with the 5 crystals, because, you know, these are the only crystals item in the game. If you mess with the codes, the pure crystal seems to be a key item, just like the shadow crystals. And the description of the crystal says, the shadow purified by the cat. Which obviously will connect this item with the shadow crystals and with Sham, because they are a cat as stated in chapter 4. I would have put my bet on a raccoon, but whatever. If this is true, then Sham will use their magic abilities to combine and purify the crystals, making the pure crystal, the item that Sham believes has the ability to change the outcome of the story. So much so that by that point they will likely be almost full of hope again, and with a big smile that this hard task was completed. And the heroes can really face what is about to come. They will be prepared. An item so powerful that will make us on the same level as the biggest enemy Deltarune will have to offer. In order to get the good ending of Undertale, we had to fight Azrael Dreamer, a secret boss fight that was hidden unless you meet a certain condition, and that was to not kill a single monster. Something that Flowey didn't believe it was possible, because this is not how this world worked, but he was proven wrong. It is very possible that this would be the same case in Deltarune. We will have to face the final secret boss that is hidden unless you have the pure crystal. It will be the same as the knight, where you needed the mantle in order to beat it. Although you will point out that you don't need the mantle to defeat the knight, which is true, but the knight is a special case of a secret boss, because they appear at the end of the chapter regardless, and they are a key member of the story, so the knight has a double role, both the main antagonist and a secret boss. So maybe that enemy will not be possible to even encounter it unless you got the pure crystal, and by defeating it we will change the prophecy as is suggested by Gerson and Sham. It will also fit thematically with the shadow crystals being tied to secret bosses. But what this item does more exactly? I mean, it is just a key item, so what can you do with it? Well, the pure crystal is just half of what you need to do all of that. We know about the existence of this item because we can see it in the recipe for the twisted sword, the combination of the Thorn Ring and the pure crystal. But the Thorn Ring is an item from the weird route, so are the shadow crystals only useful if you play the weird route? No, because who's to say this is the only recipe with the pure crystal? Items can have multiple recipes. It looks like the crystal will be used to combine it with an item to make a much more powerful weapon. And there are multiple items that could be used to do that. We even have some hints that this is how the shadow crystals work. You need to fuse it with something to get that power, otherwise it's just a piece of glass. The knight's shadow crystal is likely to be fused with their sword, because when that piece from the sword is broken, the crystal can be found in the same spot as the black shard. In the Spamton Neophyte, the crystal was in the suite before Spamton wore it, and Gerson was likely to fuse it with his hammer if that was the case. The crystal is always dropped alongside another item, so maybe we will have to do this as well. We will have to fuse it with one of our items. We know one of them is the Thorn Ring, an item we received from Spamton in the weird route, so it looks like we will fuse the pure crystal with probably an item that we get from the secret bosses, since those are the strongest items so far. Shams refuses to buy any of these items from us, so probably they know we will need them for the final item. In the first 2 chapters you can choose if you want to get a weapon or an armor depending how you did the fight. So maybe you will make a defense item if you play pacifist, or an offense item if you play aggressive. I mean, attack power is useless if you don't use the fight action. But there are 2 problems with this. We have the recipe that involves the Thorn Ring, but we don't have any recipes that involves Jevil's or Spamton's items. But we also don't have any recipes involving the Black Shard, and that's because Malleus has a bread intolerance for some reason. So we don't have any new recipes in general. I guess Toby wanted to save this reveal for later. And also the last two bosses don't give you the option to choose, unlike until now. Chris will get a dagger and Susie an axe. Both of those are weapons and they can only be equipped to a specific member. Even more interesting, these two items have some importance to Chris and Susie. We know that Chris works with the knight or they are allies and now they wield a piece of their weapon, strengthening their connection. And Susie has the axe from her new mentor, a person that taught her so much. Chapter 3 was focusing on Chris with the minigames. The entire thing was about Chris, and at the end, if you consider the mantle to be the true secret boss, Chris had to fight it alone and had to face something terrible related to them. They had to face a dark side of themselves in a way. Chapter 4 was heavily focused on Susie and how important she is for the story and the prophecy, and she also had to fight the secret boss alone. There is a trend here. The three heroes will have to fight and overcome their weaknesses alone and become much stronger at the end because of it, symbolized by their new weapon. Also, I've seen a lot of comments that said that Chris fight spammed them alone in chapter 2 weird route, but that's not a solo fight. Chris was never able to defeat Spamton. They had to call Noelle for help and she is the one to freeze Spamton and defeat it in just one hit. So it's more about Noelle, not Chris, so that's not really a solo fight. Like gameplay wise, yes, but thematic, no. But I guess the fight is as long as a normal fight, so if you want to make the argument that this is Chris' solo fight, you are probably right, but I believe that because you get the Thorn Ring in this chapter, this is Noelle's solo fight in a way. So for now I believe this is Noelle's chapter, at least thematically. This leaves us with Ralsei, who I bet will have a similar test in chapter 5. Ralsei is this game Flowey in a way, and chapter 5 is related to Asgore and his flowers, so whatever is there, Ralsei will have to face it himself and get a weapon from that secret boss. Then after Sham will make the pure crystal, we will have to make a new weapon from one of them at your choice. A sword for Chris with the black shard, an axe for Susie with the justice axe, and a scarf for Ralsei with whatever we will find there. And maybe there will be a different outcome depending who has that special item. If the crystals are just like the mantle, then this item, now Cleanse of the Shadow, will have the same ability as the mantle, to protect us against the dark. But because it will be a weapon, the item will have the power to fight against the dark, to fight against the final enemy. Just like how the black shard has the power to fight against the dark. In the end, the item will be only a tool that will unlock the fight, but we will manage to defeat the final enemy not because of this item, but because for all of the fights that we overcome to get to this point. Just like the Justice Axe description says, it has no special power. However, in order to attain this item, you became much stronger. You managed to overcome your weaknesses and become a better person. We are stronger because we got the necessary skills to defeat that boss by fighting and defeating all the other ones so far. This quest is not only about Sham's character arc, but also about the character arcs and journey of all the heroes. If you don't manage to do this task, you are incomplete and you will not have the power to change your fate. And now, knowing all of this, knowing this item are a result of the party members becoming overall a better person, it makes the weird route even more disturbing. What all of this means for Noelle, who is forced to be here. This is an inversion of that, while all the others becomes a better version of themselves because of this journey, because of this quest. Noelle will become her worst version because of this journey, an outcome that will be even worse than what the prophecy suggests. Even worse than what Sham saw, the death of everyone, trapping the entire world in ice. This can be a story about overcoming the impossible, or making it even worse. And this is why Sham holds the key to the true ending of the game, the ending that you make yourself, for the better or for the worst. And this is more or less what I have to say about Sham and everything that involves them. So there was a lot, even though it doesn't really look like it, because Sham is cryptic as fuck. If you enjoyed this video and like my content, subscribe and like this video to help me out and make even more stuff just like this one or even better. Sham has the potential to become the single most important character in the game for us the player, and the key for us to become our best versions. Sham is the embodiment of the team fighting against the odds and restoring hope. And until we learn more about Sham, or at the very least to see what all of this leads to, we will have to deal with the most divorced man in history.